all, the WTO began with the conflict of Uruguay round of negotiation in 1986 until 1994, and through the GATT, or as we know as General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the WTO was inaugurated on January 1, 1995. And this also marks the largest international trade reform since the world. WTO also does not escape from its main duties and function, namely managing international agreements, negotiating forums, handling disputes, supervising national trade, and cooperating with other international organizations. The WTO also has some principle, which is the most favored nation, which is commonly referred as a non-discrimination, the principle of national treatment, the principle of tariffs as an instrument, the principle of tariffs appeal and fair competition, and the prohibited of quantitative restrictions. WTO also has structures. The highest position is Ministerial Conference, the General Council. The third part will be Good Trade Council. The fourth part will be Service Trade Council. The fourth part will be Dispute Settlement Body. The last one will be Trade Policy Review Body.
One example of the trade dispute handled by the WTO as a transnational regime is the sale and purchase of beef between Indonesia and the United States. In this case, the Indonesian plaintiffs, which are the United States and New Zealand, did not agree with the regulations that Indonesia imposed on its foreign trade process to prohibit the import of beef. After each country discussed and negotiated this issue, finally the handling of this case was continued in the court system for follow-up. In the end, the dispute settlement body opened up a panel for a consultation session consisting of several countries with the aim of holding a hearing to resolve the case and provide recommendations to the relevant parties. The final result acquired from further investigation is, it is proven that Indonesia has violated the provisions contained in the GATT articles, so that the WTO has the right to impose sanctions to revise its transnational trade policy on meat products. From the example of a case that has been elaborated on, it can be seen that the WTO fully carries out its duties and roles as a forum for state actors involved to act and negotiate on trading issues to gain fair and best results and decisions. The WTO is also considered as a legitimate international body to deal with the trade sectors, so as this organization has the right to enforce rules and also provide recommendations for actions that the concerned actors may need it. To deal with trade disputes involving more than one country, the WTO has the main agency, which called the Dispute Settlement Body, to act independently and upholds the pillars of justice in the role as an intermediary and supervise countries that do not fulfill their obligations and determine recommendations for actions that must be implemented by disputing states according to the mechanism's procedures. The role of the WTO in the global realm is very relevant to the point stated in the perspective of neoliberalism, which emphasizes that there are other actors in the international world besides the state, which called international institutions or organizations. And also, this perspective puts forward the main concepts such as the rationality of state in acting, and besides that, also include quite limited state intervention in the transnational economic market, which eventually forms special regimes such as the WTO, IMF, and World Bank.
The WTO is an international organization platform that was established with a clear goal of helping in financial sector. And on the big question, how the WTO can resolve disputes against problematic countries? By providing adequate facilities for both parties to be able to carry out their respective interests and be beneficial for both of them. And by solving the problems, there is a separate field that stands as an enforcer of justice with its own obligation and rules and views to take the settlement action according to applicable procedures. And for the cases that have been resolved, it can be concluded that WTO can carry out its duties and obligations with very good performances.